What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to a segment on the channel that I like to call Nate's Favorites. This is the segment where I talk about movies that I absolutely love in great detail with you. And the movie today is going to be a movie that I can say right off the cuff is not going to be for everyone. This is a movie that has a very distinct style and sense of humor that really appeals to me personally. As you guys know, I've talked about it before. One of my earliest influences comedy wise was Tim and Eric's Awesome Show, Great Job, really kind of introduced me to like this form of dark comedy that kind of attacks like social norms in a way that's incredibly uncomfortable, and they do it in such a brilliant way that I just felt like I'd never experienced that type of dark comedy before. Some people call it anti-comedy. And there's other artists that have done it, like Eric Andre does it in a way that's much more extreme. John Waters, also the king of anti-comedy, does a lot of things that are just like pushing towards the extreme to get a visceral reaction or a laugh out of you. And I've seen this movie probably 4 times, and I always visit it when I'm in a place that I'm feeling kind of low, because it gets just a very like genuine guttural reaction out of me. And I know when this movie came out, there were a lot of people out there like me that absolutely adored it, and there are a lot of people out there that absolutely hate it. And this is one of those rare instances where if you're on either end of the spectrum, I can completely understand, because this is a movie that is not made for everyone. But I'm excited to talk about it with you today, and the film I'm going to be discussing is The Greasy Strangler. The Greasy Strangler is directed by Jim Hosking. Ronnie runs a disco walking tour with his son Braden. When a sexy woman takes the tour, it begins a competition between father and son for her love. It also singles the arrival of an oily strangler who stalks the streets at night. So, I absolutely love this movie. I said this before, it's why it's one of my favorites. And there are a multitude of reasons why I love this movie, and I'm going to be very excited to tell you about it today. But I'm going to break the movie down for you a little bit first. So, the beginning of the movie, we are introduced to Big Ronnie and Braden, a father and son who run a disco tour together where they go to various locations that they say spawn specific disco music. And we learn early on Big Ronnie is the Greasy Strangler, and he gets completely naked, covers himself in grease, and strangles people to death. And we learn this information right at the beginning of the movie. Braden is kind of a lonely guy. Ronnie makes fun of him nonstop and just tells people kind of how disappointed he is in him. And one day they're doing a tour, and Janet comes along on the tour, and Braden immediately takes interest in her, and they end up going on dates together, which makes Ronnie incredibly jealous. And Ronnie, as the Greasy Strangler, starts to go on a violent killing rampage because he believes that his son is abandoning him for this woman. And eventually, this woman takes an interest in Big Ronnie, which creates a competition and a love triangle between these three characters. And the entirety of the film is watching this relationship triangle between these three characters, while also watching Braden slowly discover that his father is the Greasy Strangler. So like I said, I love this movie, and there are a multitude of reasons why. For starters, the performances in this movie are exceptional. It's very much in the vein of like John Waters or Tim and Eric, where this director went out and handpicked people that would be the only people that could possibly play these roles. Each and every character in this movie, even like ones that are in it for 5 minutes, have such distinct quirks that it's like impossible not to be entranced on screen. There's a scene early on in the movie, I watch it nonstop, where three of these guys take the disco tour, and they hate it, and they get mad at Ronnie because he doesn't give them free drinks. And so Ronnie decides that he has to kill them all because he's mad at them. And one of them is this guy who goes to a vending machine, and he has a very thick accent, and he wants to get paprika chips that are ridged, and he keeps saying it over and over again. And then eventually the guy in their group asks what the chips are made out of, and he's constantly saying potato. And that is the type of humor that is up my alley. If you're ever wondering, that is the kind of humor that makes me laugh. And each and every one of those guys that's in that group was casted so perfectly. Their comedic timing is brilliant. It is just the dumbest, most over the top, ridiculous humor imaginable. There's something about like repetition in comedy, especially when the delivery is really great, that gets me. And I just think every one of these, like the actors who play Braden and Ronnie in this movie, I just can't say enough positive things. And then like these characters and the way that they're written, like Braden's best friend is this guy named Oinker who doesn't have a nose, so he wears this like plastic pig nose over it. It's just like the way that these characters are crafted, it's just fascinating to me. And I love the approach to the performances in this movie. I also love the cinematography and the production design and the use of color. It's a very strange world. It feels like it's just suburbia, but there's so many like little touches to areas that they visit throughout the movie that I feel like bring it so much life. And I really love the kills in this. They kind of dive back into like 80s horror movie territory with a lot of like the practical effects. And it's really cool to see a director go in that direction to make something that is so clearly trying to intentionally be camp to the extreme. And very similar to films like Napoleon Dynamite from back in the day, this movie has a ton of quotable lines. Like, if you've heard anything about this movie, you've probably heard Hootie Tootie Disco Cutie, or You're a Bullshit Artist, or like there's all these little like great quotable moments that are so off the cuff and strange and weird that you just don't ever expect. And I love that approach to this movie. And obviously, you guys have been watching me for some time now. I really like movies that have a lot of depth to them, that you can explore a lot of the themes. But I also like movies that you can just turn your brain off and not have to think about them, and that are just ridiculous and fun and over the top, gory, those type of things. But I do think this movie has a little bit of both. I feel like people that want to take it just for what it is, you obviously can. You can watch this movie and just appreciate the absurdity of it all and where it goes in the third act. But I actually think that there's a really interesting commentary here on relationships between fathers and sons and the toxicity of like a father in a relationship. Because Ronnie is not a good dad. He's a terrible dad. He treats his son like shit. He obviously went through a divorce, but he's very mean to all the people around him. He treats all his friends really poorly. He makes up all of these stories about his life. And what I find really interesting about this is, as someone who has a very toxic relationship with his father, and who my father was a very manipulative person who did a lot of terrible things in his life, I can relate to a lot of the struggles of Braden in this movie. And I think it's really interesting to watch it play out, because it's kind of like the movie is presenting an option in the third act of like, do you absolve the sins of the father and like just try to make the relationship work, or do you go your own path and try to do your own thing, and what are the ramifications of that action? And I think that's so true for so many people, where you're in a relationship with someone, and parental relationships are weird because there are so many people, especially kids in that relationship, who are willing to let a lot of things slide because of the fact that we're conditioned to be like, well, they're your parents, so you're supposed to be able to excuse things. But I think that people so often forget that just because they're your mom and dad, they're a human, and they're capable of making mistakes, and they're capable of making irredeemable mistakes. And I think in this movie, it's really fascinating to watch just how intense Ronnie's manipulation of Braden is, and how like demeaning it can be, and how minimalizing it can be to a guy who's seemingly very fragile already. And I thought that that's a really interesting dynamic, because it's hilarious, but there's also some moments in this amidst the comedy that are genuinely heartbreaking as well. And I think that it's really fascinating to watch a movie like this and to be able to kind of pull all of that out of it, because you wouldn't necessarily normally get that out of something that most people would just consider a gross out comedy. And I think that's really where the brilliance of this movie comes in, because it's like, it is disgusting, it's over the top, it's silly. There's literally moments of guys just like pulling their ass out and mooning people. Like, there's dumb stuff in the movie, but there's also interesting commentary around that relationship between a father and son that I think works really well overall for the experience. And I think this is a movie that if you're interested in watching because you like any of the comedy that I've mentioned, Like, if you're into dark comedy, I think there's something here that you can pull away. If that's not your cup of tea, you'll hate this with a burning passion. But this is a movie that I grow to appreciate more each time I watch it. And I recommend it to a very niche subset of people. Like, there's people that I know that'll appreciate this, but there are a lot of people I know will despise it with every fiber of their being. And so watch with your own caution. Proceed with with caution is all I will say. But I love this and I will watch it for years to come. So have you seen The Greasy Strangler? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you thought. I think this movie is brilliant. I love it and it always makes me laugh. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.